All right, I'm gonna call this meeting over at 6 o'clock. Good timing, good timing. All right, versus roll call. Up there in Zoom land is Maria. And then in person, we'll start with
Eric Lafayette.
Craig Vader.
Cheryl Hammond, Judy Pullinan,
Paul Wachowski.
Lauren Sherman,
Julie McKenzie.
Jamie Dickey.
Dave Banner. Kyle Giacomo. Todd Barrow.
All right, next, look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So many.
All right, Dave makes one. Who'd like second?
I will.
Judy seconds. Any additions or deletions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next, looking for a motion to approve the minutes of June 14th, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
All right, Judith makes the motion. Who's, you second, Dave? All right, excellent. Everybody like those minutes? Look at those minutes. All right, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, beautiful. Next, so we're going right to an executive session. It's going to be for Title 1313A1F, confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal service to hear advice from legal counsel with regard to PCB litigation. So this is a two-step motion. So, all right, the first one is a look for a motion that finds premature general public knowledge of potential litigation issues with regard to PCBs could place the board at a significant disadvantage because the board risks disclosing litigation strategies if issues were discussed in open session.
So many.
All right,
Second.
all right, Dave second, Judith makes the motion. Any discussion on that motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Opposed? All right, the second one is looking for a motion to enter executive session to discuss the potential litigation issues with regard to PCB's contracts under the provision of Title I VSA Section 313A1F, inviting Cheryl, Lauren, and Pietro.
Do you want to invite your principals?
And we'll do, all right, yeah, we'll invite Craig
Yeah.
and Deborah.
Yeah.
I think Deb already took herself.
She did, okay,
Yeah.
all right, so make that motion.
So many.
All right, Dave makes the motion, Jude seconds. Any discussion on that motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed?
We're gonna ask you
Yeah.
to step out. Right, and,
And it is 6:00.
yes, please. Yeah.
You have more packets?
All right, oh yeah, right here.
Yes.
Here, Dave. There's your little, here you go, Dave. All right, beautiful.
Can't tell the players how to score.
All right, so let's see. We'll have the executive session at 6:26 and no action will be taken.
And I just remind you and everybody else that Amber's not here tonight.
Speaking of Amber.
I was gonna say, she said no, stop by if you could, and there she is.
Right.
That's the virtual Amber.
I ended up with Amber, now my dropping my kid off at school takes a whole lot less time than I thought it was.
That's great.
Yeah, she's not right again, so hopefully we're back today.
We're recording
Give
again.
a minute to Amber set up for a minute.
Jerry Clark went to Ludlow-Mount.
You're kidding. No, she didn't. That is a fun fact.
Is that where you?
No, she left here and then she just started really.
Who's the attorney general these days?
Charity Clark.
Ah. Nice.
Like,
No, her, I was just trying to figure them out.
got it. I knew where she was.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You knew it,
You
right?
were in the district at that time, right? No.
Cheryl, do you mind pulling up the?
All right,
I am.
so let's do board comments. Do we have board comments? Next in communications and, no, okay. Public comments. Any public comment out there? No, all right. Next, a presentation on possible bond for school building renovations.
Cool. Good to see everybody again.
No, that's. You good?
We're good? All right, we're in session.
Yes, good to go.
Cool, so we spent the last few months working with the facilities task force to kind of go through the different options at the schools, evaluating different pros and cons, trying to narrow in the scope of work, what's really necessary at the schools. And then, at the same time, trying to make sure that this update brings a lot of value to the students and the occupants beyond just the real necessary needs of your mechanical systems and infrastructure at the school as well. So I'm just waiting for the audit to show up and I'll try to run through it. I think maybe about a half hour roughly of time, so. Keep scrolling down. Starting right here, so ECM matrix that we've settled on right now is we're looking at wood pellet boiler with an LP backup. So this is at Ludlow Elementary School, so eliminating your boilers that you guys currently have in your mechanical room, whole new mechanical room, all new pumps, and going with a wood pellet boiler. Right now, you guys are burning roughly 20,000 gallons of oil a year in this facility. Going with a wood pellet system with LP backup, we're looking at projected savings of around $32,000 a year. And really the savings from that comes from both the efficiency factors of the new LP boiler, along with just a fuel source in pellet boilers, which is about a quarter of the cost per therm of equivalent heat than an oil source system. And that's a common thing that we're actually going to do at Mount Holly as well. So these are wood pellets. There'd be a silo outside of the building. These wood pellet boilers are going to pick up the heating in your building for 3-4 months out of the year. In the shoulder season, you guys would be utilizing the LP condensing boiler.
How does wood pellets fit into the Vermont scheme with the affordable fuel thing coming down the pipe?
That is not something that they are going to be putting an additional tax on because it's not a fossil fuel.
Okay.
Nope. So right now, that is going to be being left alone. So
more savings.
Yeah.
I don't know where that tax is going to end up on fossil fuels, but they've been pretty good about making sure that the cool thing is, wood pellets, I think they say if you buy a gallon of oil, 80% of that money goes out of state, where if you buy wood pellets, 80% of that money is within a 60-mile radius of your system. So the stuff are locally sourced, the truck drivers are local, the businesses are local, and the production are pretty local. So it keeps money in the region, which is why I think the legislature doesn't want to tax it. ERUs for the classrooms with heat pumps. So that's really eliminating this original structure. You guys have the original building has 6 classrooms in it. There's really no ventilation in there right now. So that's adding a roof mounted energy recovery unit with dehumidification and heat pump integrated. We also included the classrooms, the newer classrooms over here on this wing that face the playground area. So the goal would be to add dehumidification to all those classrooms. The heat pump allows you to pick up some of the shoulder seasons with heating through the system. So it actually will help us reduce boiler run times as well. DDC control upgrades. So improving all of these HVAC systems, we have to have a web-based control system to actually set the schedules, monitor and switch between the pellet system and the LP, depending on the outdoor air temperature and what the needs of the school are. So this is really a web-based control system that really allows us to optimize how this building is utilized. So if we're in this room after hours, we could throw an occupancy person in here and at least get some ventilation and outside air inside the space. Electrical upgrades. This place has 3 incoming electrical services, which is definitely against code. So I think every time they did an addition, instead of just upsizing or doing a new electrical entrance, they're like, oh, we'll just put a new electrical drop in. So this would be a whole new electrical switchgear room, new feed to the building. It would be sized to pick up the new heat pumps that we're integrating into the building. It's going to be sized to pick up the proposed solar that we have at this time right now, which is we're looking at a couple options there, which I'll get to in a minute. And then really sizing the electrical service that, you know, in the future, if this building, if you guys decide 20 years from now, when your pellet boiler and your LP are getting end of life, hopefully the technology is there that you can go with like an air to water heat pump or some kind of ground source heat pump system. Still utilize all the infrastructure that you guys have in here from a ventilation and a piping standpoint, except for that heating source of where that water comes from would come from a renewable energy rather than, say, a fossil fuel. So making sure that when we do that electrical upgrade, that we have that capacity built into it. LED lighting, that's pretty self-explanatory, all new fixtures. Solar PV system. So something that came up here was I have to do analysis on this roof for structural when I replace the roof because of snow load changes and stuff. While I do it, I'm going to obviously look at what it would take to put a solar PV system on. That's typically a ballasted system, meaning that like they're putting down like concrete blocks to hold down these solar panels on your rubber membrane roof. The other option that I actually just started calling up a little bit more about is there an option to do like a power purchase agreement? So getting in on the community solar array, that would be something that would be outside of this bond, but essentially you would agree with like a SunCommon or some group, and then you would buy in power, purchase power from them, usually at a discounted rate, and then you would be purchasing that for a set number of years. So in that case, somebody else owns and operates the solar array. In this case, you guys would own and operate it. I'm going to do an analysis and look at both ones, and hopefully by November, I'll have maybe a community option for you guys at that time. Roof replacement. So that's literally redoing this whole roof, bringing it back up to a new 20-year warranty, upgrading the insulation to current Vermont Energy Code. Window replacement. This is really a select window replacement and looking at the worst windows in the school. Some of the windows are original, so really, or at least, you know, trying to address windows that may not be working properly, but still are probably good windows. So there might be a reason for that stuff. So door security and just like is definitely a major concern. So secured entrances at the front entry here and at the front entry at Mount Holly. And when we talk security, we're also talking like door access, so key access swipes, getting into certain doors, looking at the hardware around the perimeter of the school, including, you know, windows here, and seeing, you know, what kind of adjustments we can make while not going through and replacing every single window. So a lot of windows got dinged here and at Mount Holly, mainly because they're more of a residential style window than a true like commercial school window. We're not gonna, you know, unless they've failed and the seals are broken on them, those aren't the ones that we're targeting. We're really kind of targeting the original windows in the school. Secured entrance and vestibule. So that's redoing that front entryway, your guys' main entrance to the elementary school. Also looking at relocating your front office to where your current pre-K space is so that we can have an option where the front door is locked, somebody walks in, you talk to somebody in the window, and then they buzz you back in through that second set of double doors. So it's a secured vestibule, something that Mount Holly has something that's pretty close to it. We'd be looking at making adjustments there. But this includes adding some curtain walls and making adjustments.
Sound board?
I think is that what they're, yes, I think that's what they might be calling a correctional facility.
So much fun.
Yeah. Like a Sally port, I think, in a school setting. Interior finish upgrades. So this is really focused on, like I said, back at that original part of the school where you guys have a lot of like big windows that open up into the hallway. You guys have a lot of wire mesh in there, really old cabinetry. So that number is, like I said, really focused on that original part of the building. We're going to see how far we can stretch it and try to get that space a lot up closer to the finish level that you see in other parts of the school. Asbestos abatement, not a ton for most part here, a lot of it's been addressed. There is one big tank in a mechanical room that is still hot. That's really what this covers. You know, we're going to do more analysis. If you guys approve this, I'm going to come back through, check every piece. I mean, from a visual inspection, it looks like you guys are in a pretty good spot, but essentially anything I touch, I'm going to have to get tested before removing. So yeah, I've had examples of stuff come up before. I won't get into it, but I feel good about what you guys are up against. So Yeah, I'm looking up, I had a ceiling tile, this whole school had like 100,000 square feet of asbestos ceiling tile nobody knew about somehow. So ADA and code updates. So that's American with Disability Act. So we're talking ramps, door hardware, bathrooms, drinking fountains. Code improvements are smoke walls. There's going to be doors that we're probably going to end up having to replace due to either the door hardware or the actual ratings on those doors. Electrical improvements. So in order to put the new ventilation system in, we're going to have to take down the ceilings in a lot of those spaces. Once I take the ceilings down, it kind of opens up this like, what's up? AHJ usually wants to see that brought up to code. So what we do is we'll work with the AHJ. We try to identify the stuff that they want to see done. Like anything, there usually has to be some kind of line drawn in the sand because, we just don't have all the money to do every single code update. So a lot of times it's smoke barriers, so these ceilings run like straight through, but because you guys are sprinklered, you actually don't have to have, that fire and smoke. But you do have to maintain a 1 hour smoke rating in the corridor still, but you don't need to meet the 2 hour fire rating. So it is a big difference between the two. Being sprinklered is awesome, which is going to create a lot more money and time at Mount Holly because they're not sprinklered. So we do have to create more smoke walls and smoke barrier code updates there. Next slide.
Can you just speak about the savings and the rebates?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry about that. The saving are projected energy savings. So when we're looking at $32,000 a year, we had to make some. So we started this a year ago. At the time, I think last year people were paying around $4 a gallon for oil. I've heard this year people are back to like $2.80 or something like that. I think it's back. So it's dropped again. So these savings are going to have to reflect the updated new oil savings. Savings are going to come down a little bit. There's still going to be savings there, but we have to have some kind of baseline to base it up, and kind of where we started was based off previous year's oil. So that's what we're looking at. That's really a fuel switch. That's switching from oil as your primary heating source to pellets with LP backup. DDC control upgrades, those savings are really built in by the fact that now you guys use like a pneumatic control system, which is an air-based system that opens and controls valves. So this controls is doing night setbacks. So, dropping the temperature in these spaces to 60 degrees at night, reheating them as we need, really dialing in the ventilation to this building. So not ventilating the building from 5 o'clock in the morning to say 7 o'clock at night, but really dialing in based on the usage of the space and creating accurate time clock schedules that reflect the usage of the space. And then we have these override buttons. So if you are utilizing the space after hours and ventilation is off, at least you have the option to go to a thermostat and press the occupancy button and get air back into your space. The LED lighting, great. I mean, this is just kilowatt-hour reductions because the place is pretty much overramped. There's a lot of fluorescent lighting in here, so there's really good savings there. Solar PV, that's a direct, credit that you guys would get. So, based off of roughly a 50 kilowatt solar array, you'd be looking at generating in Vermont in this area roughly $9,500 at 18.5 cents a kilowatt hour. And window replacement has minimal savings. These rebates on the right are a mix of Efficiency Vermont rebates and then grant opportunities that are out there. So there's huge grant opportunities to move towards renewable energy and pellet systems. So one of the things that we're just discussing is submitting grant applications for here and for Mount Holly in the next couple of weeks for this wood pellet boiler, which I'd be very surprised if you didn't get at least $200,000 for it, if not more. So that's a grant that I've received on multiple projects now, and it's pretty easy to obtain, and they're looking to get more people on wood chips, so wood pellet. So they'd be all about this. $25,000, that's an Efficiency Vermont grant. And
This will still be inside or outside?
what's that?
The actual boiler for the pellet.
This boiler would be inside the building. The pellet silo would be outside the building. rebates, so the 25,000, like I said, that's an Efficiency Vermont projected rebate, and then the $50,000 on the solar PV system is actually an Inflation Reduction Act tax credit that they're opening up to non-taxpaying entities, which I have not gone after yet. They supposedly real, but they just, I don't think they still have the language out on that. So, but we would apply. They say if you do it now, then you can retroactively get that money once they come out with actually the parameters of how you get it. So essentially, they said that Congress has approved it. It was a huge bill. It was I think a $2.5 trillion Inflation Reduction Act bill from like last year, and they pass it all, and then they don't really give any information of how you actually get any of those funds. So we're still kind of waiting to hear from them on how that stuff gets obtained. Scrolling down a little bit. So now we're at Mount Holly. Big thing here is the building addition. So really looking at space over there. When I toured the space, they utilize their cafeteria as, their breakout, their OT, PT, special education purpose rooms. It's filled up with, stuff that does not belong in a cafeteria. So it's equipment that's used on a regular basis. It really doesn't have a home right now at Mount Holly, and they really don't have a space. So this is creating dedicated space for those support services, as well as looking at addressing the current nurses room, that area as well. And then also looking at having a flex space. So a flex classroom, roughly 800,000 square feet, could be utilized as like a bumper classroom or but looking at roughly 2,000 square feet. And you're looking at, like I said, 500 or so each for we're looking at 800 approximately for the OTPT, a couple hundred square feet for the nurses, and then the remaining 1,000 is going to be the flex space. Wood pellet boiler and LP backup, really the same premise that we'd be looking at here, but ripping out the guys' oil tanks, taking out the oil boilers, replacing those units. ERUs for the classrooms, so same thing, getting rid of the ground mounted unit ventilators that just bring in raw outside air and heat it into the space, and really bringing in true energy recovery ventilation units. So each classroom would have a couple supply diffusers or return air. We're going to be able to modify how much air is going in and out of that space through a variable air volume box. It's going to be dehumidification. So we're going to be able to maintain a 55% relative humidity in the space, which is going to be providing very good comfort to the people. And then
Will they be located in the classroom?
No, these units we're gonna either probably have to maybe utilize the new addition roof, because there's these really crazy roof lines on the back of like that car area. Yeah. So we're gonna have to make some big adjustments to all those roof lines, because that's where we want to put our addition out back there. We're going to go with a flat roof on the new addition, and we're looking at putting the new energy recovery unit on the roof and then running the ductwork through your guys' attic space. EDC controls upgrade, same thing that we talked about here, but that's a web-based control system. So electrical upgrade, same thing. That's a service upgrade that's going to pick up the new power requirements for dehumidification and ultimately switching over to all renewable. LED lighting, solar PV, same situation, probably there looking at a ground mount system. Based off some conversations with Craig, there might be an area that would satisfy that. So I'm going to look and price out both scenarios while still looking at a power purchase agreement. Fire alarm, you guys desperately need a new fire alarm system. So that's a complete, got all new devices, all new panel. Secured entrance and vestibule, same thing we talked about. You guys are in a better situation there, but it's not. We still need to do door replacements. We still need to do security cameras and automatic. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to do there. Siding improvements. So this is addressing the CMU block that you guys have as siding, at least in the first two classrooms. This is also addressing some of the water issues that are having over there. So trying to capture that water that's coming off of your two big roofs and bringing it to a dry well system and really diverting it away from the building. And then redoing all that siding. So not knocking down the CMU, but building off of it. So, putting your air and water barrier in, bringing the insulation up to current codes. There's no insulation in it right now. Actually digging down, about 18 inches down below the ground, bringing our insulation down below the actual floor so we don't have a thermal break going right into that. It's not redoing all the siding in the building or around the school, but it's really focusing on that CMU block area, the parking lot side, the front entrance, and then around that kind of cafeteria. And then there's just some miscellaneous painting that I'd like to see done too that really needs, that you guys should look at to extend the life of some of your trim and stuff over there. Interior finish upgrades. My goal with that is to really address your classroom running straight up in all the classrooms on both sides. So all new cabinetries, all new floors, painting, most likely having to do door replacements due to code updates, fire rating, the corridor walls, really trying to address every classroom in that school from a finish level standpoint as well. Not doing windows necessarily, but really looking at floors, cabinetry, walls, and paint, and ceilings. Asbestos abatement, same thing. There's a handful of floors over there that still need to get abated. I don't know everything. I know they're gonna find some stuff. So I got money carried for it. We'll do more investigating over that in the next couple
A
months.
couple of floors?
Yeah, like the floor tile,
Okay.
the small floor tile that's hot with the mastic underneath. And then ADA and code improvement. So there's a lot of the same things that you see here, dual height drinking fountains, making sure that you have the proper number of bathrooms. Also looking at major firewalls throughout that place to get that place back up to code. So not looking at doing a sprinkler system over there, but because we're not doing a sprinkler system, it's going to cost a lot of money to really get the sheetrock 5/8 that we need in order to get that 2-hour fire rating through our egresses. And then we're probably going to have to make some adjustments to the gym, some doors at the gym that should get fixed here pretty soon. And then just so that in case of fire that we have the right stuff set up in there. So we were back there yesterday with the architects, spent a few hours over there yesterday walking through the school. We're going to be probably back again next week. We're going to try to take advantage of these next few weeks before kids come back and try to get into both schools a couple more times with some more people, continue with the design. But if you want to, and then savings are a lot of the same savings. So, fuel, pellet, getting that same rebate. So they're giving the same rebate, doesn't matter the size of the boiler. So, which is pretty sweet. And then if you want to scroll down a little bit, this is what we call a preliminary investment grade audit. So you can keep going down. I have to update the utility data because I don't have it based off this year. This is based off 2021 and 2022. That's just talking about some assumptions of what we would look at for lighting run times. And then this is just kind of a high level written narrative of what each one of these ECM matrices is what we're going to be designing over the next 3 months. This is a preliminary investment grade audit, so there's not a whole lot of detail of like what specific boiler is going in there and like how many lights are going in. And like the final investment grade audit is like every single room gets counted for lights, every single one shows you like what the new unit is. This is the idea of like, if you guys agree to this and these rough numbers, then we got a lot of tasks to get ahead till November, putting all this information on paper and making, working with local fire marshals and making sure we get up to date. So we can go through these, but I pretty much talked about each one.
You said that for Ludlow, there was I think a $30,000 asbestos abatement thing for a tank.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that change in the boiler room with a new system take care of that?
Yeah, well, I have to remove it.
So it was $30,000 to remove an asbestos tank?
It would probably cost me like 15,000, I bet, 10 to 15,000. And then I can just carry some extra money in there because I know once I rip down some ceilings, there's going to be stuff that I find that I'm going to have to address. So I kind of looked at your guys' 3-year audit. The 3-year audit doesn't say a lot of stuff. It says, we know this is asbestos. And then they just list 50 other materials that we just say, oh, we assume this is asbestos because we've never tested it before. But that's essentially what the state of Vermont makes you do. Anything that, unless it's been specifically tested, then you just say everything in your building is asbestos. So I know it's not. So my next step is I go through and I work with, a Harper Environmental or an environmental contractor, anything that we touch, I need to get tested. So like this insulation right here looks really good. But I can tell you that like just based on some coloring here and like what you're gonna find up above the ceiling is probably not gonna match what I find down here. So there's always like joints that come up. And once we take down these ceilings, it's really the opportunity to try to glove bag and get rid of those things. So I'll have to dial the asbestos in as well. But my goal and what I was hoping for is that essentially we would get, after working with, there's significant CO2 savings. So we talked about that as well. Oh, question?
I know you talked about it to the committee, but could you touch on the ERUs for the classrooms and how that would improve the circulation and just the general comfort of the rooms?
Yeah, absolutely. So energy recovery units, those are bringing your outside air and removing air outside of the space right now. Right now, you guys utilize a unit ventilator, which is a wall-mounted unit. That wall-mounted unit has a damper in there that, you know, either brings in more classroom air, or as it opens up, it brings in more outside air. But the whole premise of that system is that it's based off of building pressurization. So you need to have negative exhaust flowing from it. Right now, everything operates off a pneumatic air-based control system, meaning that like you guys probably have some type of time clock system, but you know, you guys are bringing in kind of a constant amount of outside air through these unit ventilators, but there's really no way to verify that those are working properly. And there's actually probably the exhaust fans running a whole lot. So this is a verified air into the space that you're going to be able to monitor the CO2 inside of it. So we're actually going to be able to see in here with this many people for this amount of time. We're probably up to like 1,500 parts per million. When it gets above 800, you know, we start slowly opening up the outside air. And then we try to keep this within a range, and then we're going to be able to maintain like temperatures in here pretty consistent, like 70 degrees. We call it dehumidification and not cooling because it's a smaller system. And when you cool, we're maintaining like that 70-degree temperature for like a heat wave of like 4 straight days of like 95-degree air, because that's how you design as an engineer. And you take that worst capacity day and then you build your system around that worst capacity day and temperature. But in dehumidification, you're kind of saying, oh, like we know that on those hottest days, July and August, like we're not trying to maintain 70 degrees in this building. We're trying to maintain a 55-degree relative humidity. So all of our ductwork gets smaller, our condensing unit gets smaller, and really this summer we really haven't had any heat waves. We had this unit up and running at same kind of sizing, same parameters at Springfield Library. It's been up all summer and they haven't gone above 70 degrees. So for us, it's a way to kind of downsize the equipment, or I would say more right size the equipment for a school. It's maintaining dehumidification, but we just don't engineer it to the point for those kind of crazy summer days when this building's really not occupied a whole lot. So,
But all these new units are class.
and filtration. So right now you guys are kind of maxing out on this MERV 8 filtration. The other thing is like, it's not very tight. So when you stick like this filter inside of a unit ventilator, how much it's actually filtering is questionable because like these things are just kind of loose in there. Obviously air is going to go to the path of least resistance. All the new energy recovery units that we put on have essentially double filtration. So you have that initial MERV 8 filter that gets replaced 3-4 times a year, you know, definitely heavy in the spring when pollen comes out. And then you have that second set of the MERV 13 filters, which you're replacing. If you do a good job on your front filters, you're replacing those every couple of years, ideally. So double filtration brings you up to code. You're actually getting measured air into the space because we're actually going to have airflow stations measuring how much CFM is coming in there. We're going to be able to adjust the CFM based off of the occupant load inside of the space. So yeah, it's going to be significantly better. So every classroom is going to be plus or minus 1 degrees heating and cooling year round. I mean, that's the parameters that we're working with. And we can adjust those parameters to improve efficiencies too.
Sorry, can I ask you something? I met you when we were at the facilities meeting in May, and it was really hot in the classrooms. Now, with all this new work, can you add air conditioning as well, since you're going to do all this work anyway?
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at. It's pretty much air conditioning. It's called dehumidification.
Is it a heat pump?
It's a heat pump. You utilize it through a heat pump. But yeah, the unit, we're going to be able to maintain anytime that the kids are in here, we're going to be maintaining 70 degrees at its hottest. I mean, like I said, it's the only thing with the air conditioning end of it is that it just makes us have to create a much bigger design parameter, upsizes the equipment a lot, and just adds a lot of costs for not a lot of extra value for a school that isn't heavily occupied in those hottest days.
Thank you.
I'm going to put my taxpayer hat on. How much of these changes are required and how many of them are bells and whistles? And can you differentiate if there is a difference?
I think that's pretty tough. Like required by code, you're saying, or by recommendation, or by, well.
How many of these do we need and how many of them are bells and whistles?
Well, I think you guys desperately need HVAC improvements. I mean, there's parts of your building that have zero.
What I'm getting at is if we have to vote in separate sections or in chunks, if they don't approve the total amount, what would be the next step that we could go to cover all the items that really need to be in there?
A lot of that is kind of going, some of that has to do.
Mountain had a problem, didn't it? Pass the first vote or whatever?
It did not pass the first vote.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, in this case, really the failing heating systems, I think are something that drove this project to begin with. But on further review of it, I mean, there's parts of your building that just had zero outside air whatsoever, which definitely are code violations. It all goes back to like, if you guys don't do anything, and you guys can obviously still operate your schools the way that they are. It's not like anybody's forcing anybody to do these things, but there's just like this threshold of that we don't always know. It's really on the fire marshal of like, once you start a project, do you have to bring the whole building up to code, or like where does that code kind of stop? And I don't always know that answer, unfortunately. Sometimes it's more up to the fire marshal than in the architect of what their opinion on where the code starts and stops and what they're responsible for.
What I would like you guys to do is provide me an answer. So when I get asked by a taxpayer how I can answer it without trying to blow smoke.
What I would tell
That's where I'm coming from. You don't have to.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I would say is that, I mean, you guys have a lot of systems here that are well past their useful life. You guys have boilers here that are 50 years old that have, roughly a 30-year life expectancy.
Okay, and all that stuff is important.
Yeah, you guys have fire alarm systems that, at least at Mount Holly, that, are original to the school, look like they're very hard to work on, definitely need to be upgraded. If you ask the fire marshal, he said, yes, you need to do that. Secured entrance and vestibule, I mean, those are really recommendations and goals that were put forth by the facilities task force. That's usually not necessarily a code required thing, but more of what BizBit, which is the Vermont State Business Insurance Trust, that they're recommending essentially, which is where we got a lot of that secured stuff. The siding improvements, you need to do that. That definitely needs to happen. It's pretty bad in there. The interior finish upgrades, I mean, really, if you want to talk about, it doesn't meet code. Like the current cabinetry in there doesn't meet code because it's not ADA. You can't roll up to it. They're not at the right height based off the
It's
kitchen.
important to know.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is well past its useful life. And if you don't touch it, like I said, you don't necessarily have to replace it. But at the same time, we were in there, we're starting the project. And when we were looking at those code things, we were like, well, we're going to go through and, do this renovations. We added some additional interior finish upgrades, I think here, that were kind of brought back in because we were doing a lot of infrastructure project that maybe couldn't really see as a taxpayer. So we wanted to bring some kind of finish level inside those spaces that the students and the teachers and everybody would notice upon coming back. So all this other stuff, DDC controls, you guys really do have, here controls that are obsolete, 50 plus years old. There's a handful of people in the state that know how to work on it. And those people are past retirement age. And then you have the electrical at the other schools really, at this school is not safe based on its current configuration that you have. So that really should get replaced. And then I can't install these heating upgrades without doing the controls. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff could get dialed back to some extent. We could go with unit ventilators, but it
I'm
wouldn't.
not asking the question to dial it back. I'm just asking the question so I can reinforce the answer to get it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
And I think it would be helpful, maybe if you could, not in November, but sooner than November, break down some of what you just told us.
Right.
Right, okay, so that we know what to say when people ask us, gee, why are you spending, $175,000 on controls? We'll remember some of what you said, but if you write it down.
I can provide it. Yeah, that ECM matrix or that preliminary investment grade audit has a lot of that information in it if you read it. So,
But if you can do it, you can do it with the emphasis on how bad is it now?
yes.
And why is it a problem?
Yes.
And not,
I think if you scroll down,
it was more focused on how it's going to be good.
yeah, if you scroll down, I did start doing that on the first few of them, and I can continue doing it on the other ones.
The marketability of this is just as important as what it is.
Yeah, so like the existing conditions, so I'll expand on those on each one, but the existing boilers are 50 years old, they're past their useful life. The pumps are constant volume, meaning that they just turn on and they run full bore from October right through end of March, so there's no varying speed depending on weather temperatures or if you actually need heat, they just keep running. The boiler room operates off an obsolete pneumatic control system, which is that air-based control system that really nobody works on, provides.
So I think Eric put it together like old school here. That the new wing and a couple other. Those here, some putting that before the taxpayers, we kind of just replacing. That one is in dire need. On the verb, do we change? No. Here's left the. We decided we and wait until the warrant stays beyond warranty. So there's some. So there are some bells. Task force kind of. We're not going.
It's kind of like the old Fram oil filter too. You
Sure.
pay me now, you can pay me later.
Right.
If you want, what might be really useful is I can try to condense all this into like the highlights of like, these are the worst conditions. I'll do that. I'll condense it to like the major talking points of why this needs to happen.
Look, this is not in code, this is against fire code.
Yes, I can do all that. I can certainly do that.
I have a comment for Dave. Well, because I was on the committee this day, with Dave 2.0. The only thing on that list that we felt we might eliminate or not was the solar. And the big thing was it's a 10-year payback, but then we have it for another 10 years. And so we were talking about, could we contract out to purchase solar or whatever? That was really the only thing I think left, right? That was maybe an option of taking off the table. But it's at $150,000, right?
Yeah, per school.
$50,000 rebate, it was $100,000. So, is that really gonna make an impact? So we asked them to do like a cost analysis of it.
Well, a solar thing, did you have a solar thing for Mount Holly since we?
Yeah, both
So it's
schools.
100% solar then?
That remaining portion would get you pretty darn close to there. I haven't run all the final calcs because it's kind of combination. I'm reducing energy with the electric, but I'm adding load with the dehumidification.
Okay,
So
so
I gotta run through this stuff.
we were trying to have solar, we have a windmill, and maybe the pellet stove would be a bio furnace, is that right?
Correct.
So that's the three-legged stool as far as
It's gonna be awesome.
the economy is. What is that, have you figured that into your figures? If
Yeah,
you did
it's in
that?
there.
Yeah, that's what the plan is. I mean, it's, this is, I'm projecting like an 80% reduction in your CO2 output at the school. fossil fuel reduction.
Craig, maybe you can give us something on the addition, you know, why is it important
Yeah.
and does it really meet your major needs?
Yeah, well, I think Eric did a great job of articulating how we're currently doing physical therapy and occupational therapy in the cafe. Like it's not normal. And we don't have a proper nurses area, and we converted a closet, literally a closet, into our school-based clinician's office, a window in this closet. I mean, I think there's just so many examples of things that are past their lifespan, that are not up to code, that are just not conducive to a safe and healthy. And then
Prior to Band-Aids.
Well, when they put the nurses station in, they,
It's on the
eliminated the
stage.
ADA ramp to the stage. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that kind of got done that like at the short term needed to get done,
Right.
but didn't address the code issues or created more issues actually with the work.
So, and Craig, is it enough?
I think the committee and EEI have done a really good job of not including bells and whistles. Like, I think your question's a really good one, Dave. But I think these are all really basic things. And, to Judy's point, the solar, how to do that, which way, it's good to get the cost benefit analysis. But we also, there are more things that could be done that would be optimal, that would be wonderful to have. But we have to balance fiscal responsibility. We have to make this affordable. It's already really unsustainable for folks financially to live where we live in our communities. And so, yeah, in a dream world, wouldn't it be nice to have bigger and better and more? But we can't afford that. So we're really trying to do what we need to do to take our school into the next 25 years in a way that's going to be safe and affordable.
Yeah, what you can provide us will be extremely important.
Yes, absolutely. I can definitely provide good talking points. I kind of call it like the elevator pitch, like a really good like elevator pitch. If you bump into somebody in the grocery store and you got 1 minute,
Yeah.
tell them
Yeah,
why
yeah.
you should pass this.
That's about what you got.
I'll give you that. So,
Town meeting, maybe, boom.
Eric, can you talk about timeline?
timeline. So timeline is essentially if I get approval from this board that says, hey, this is the direction that we want to go in and that we want to move forward with, then I will work with my design engineers who have already started, because I feel like we kind of have a path forward. And we're going to essentially create a bid set of drawings that would be done by beginning of November. I would then take that bid set of drawings and go out to all my vendors. It's going to hopefully at that point, hopefully the fire marshals will allow me to review it with them ahead of time. They've been slammed lately, so trying to get them a few minutes of like something that's not submitted on a permit, they kind of complain about, but I can usually get in there enough if I complain. So I'll get in there, review the drawings with them, usually walk the job with those drawings. I'll get updated pricing. I'll come back to you guys mid-November and say, this is what the preliminary investment grade audit said. This is what ended up getting designed based off of like what the architect came up with, what AHJ code is. And then this is what the pricing came out with all the subs. And if you guys say, oh, it's more money or it's less money, we want to add scope or we want to make adjustments at that time, that would be a really good time to do it. And then we would kind of finalize that scope. At that time, we'd have all of our final numbers for the savings. We'd have all of our, what we call the final investment grade audit at that point. And then you guys would approve it, hopefully by mid-December of saying, this is the final scope that we want to move forward with. January warrant articles would go out. Between now and then, we would be working on notification and working with the PTO, hopefully to get this out so people are aware of it. I can provide renderings, I would think, in the next month of what some of these new entrances might look like, what the new siding might look like, and what the new addition to at least spur some interest in it. And then it would go out for a March bond vote. It's a 1 month after approval of the bond, if it passes, where they have this appeal period where we can't sign a contract. Then beginning of April, we sign a contract. I would probably jump on doing the boilers first off that summer. And then whatever renovations I can kind of take on that first summer. It's going to be a slow start in the summer just because it's tough to pull a team together in those last kind of missed the boat to some extent.
Yeah, we understand.
So we would gear up and try to get as much stuff done during the school year, working with with the principals, working on school breaks, and then really go do the addition right off the bat. We would start that fall 2024, have that complete by the time the summer hits 2025.
Now, does the addition include furnishing?
FF&E is typically by the owner, so no, it does not. Fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. But I think for the most part, you guys have a lot of this stuff. You just don't have a home for it right now.
Right.
It's like the cafeteria and other
Yeah.
stacked up. Like the nurse's office, it's not like you probably have to buy all nurse's stuff. You just have to take it off the stage and.
Although there are some basic things that we don't have, like we don't have a bed, like the way, the kid's sick.
Yeah.
At LES, there's a place for them to rest while their parent gets there.
No.
Right.
Right, that's little stuff.
That's little stuff,
All right.
but
Yeah.
So you need a motion to approve this initial, or do you just need the census from everybody?
I don't need a motion. I mean,
Okay.
it doesn't, I'm not charging anything for any, so essentially until
Right.
hopefully this
Is
passes.
everybody good? I'm good with it. Is everybody good to keep
Yes.
going forward?
Yeah.
All right, beautiful.
How long would it take you to put the numbers to all that?
Well, I have a preliminary. We talked about this. Let me find the right folder. Meeting. Yeah, it was roughly, wasn't it like 500 for a $500 increase to people's taxes based on a
$200,000.
$250,000.
350, wasn't it?
It was 250 here.
For 500?
Well, it was 250 in Ludlow, until we looked at 350.
Well, this is a $400,000. So let me,
But that high, was that?
what, like a $250,000 would be $422 added to the taxes over the course of the year,
Million?
and 10 million.
So 400, so it's like $40 a
How
month.
much you guys get out of this?
About $40 a month.
We have. But it's, we do it. So it's open pricing. So we put everything out to bid. We work. Get the stuff done. Like a CM.
Can you say something about what?
Sorry, I can't hear because you're away from the microphone. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you say something about what we should be doing to publicize this sort of between now and November? I mean, it seemed it would be a mistake to wait until December and then drop it on everybody.
It's up to you, but.
I would say just this is publicizing it, this public discussion, people will hear it. But when we did the Black River renovation, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, Fred, or something, what we did is we really started publicizing it once we had all the figures in, because it's hard to if you don't know what they are. But there are things like I remember that we did that we can do again. We went on, Chemo Valley TV. We had like these visuals of the old yucky urinals that were, what were they called? Gravity urinals, what they looked like. Yes, sir.
Those are the worst.
Too much information.
Yeah, zero flush, we don't recommend that.
Well, that's the way to sell it.
But things like, we have a 50-year-old boiler.
Right.
Look, here's the nurse's office on the stage. Look, here's all, everything
Pages worth
in
of
one
travel to work.
cafeteria in Mount Holly.
Yep.
We need space, and
True.
to make it visual, not just say it, but show it to people. And we would have those like at meetings.
You can put a town hall.
Yeah, I mean, like an investment of blowing up pictures like this.
Yeah,
Right,
basically.
and like doing that kind of stuff is what people want to see. They want to know. And also saying how the classrooms will be more comfortable. They'll be 70 degrees. Like we all know, anybody that's had a child in this school, I know particularly, it's brutal on the hot
Well, we're
days.
feeling it right now.
Yeah.
And this isn't even that
The air is horrible too, and that's what our kids are learning in. And that's what I think we need to get out. And that-
Green Mountain did a video
as well.
I think
Any
Green
lessons
Mountain,
learned from Green Mountain?
Green Mountain took too long. That whole process, there was too much decisiveness
Divisiveness.
divisiveness, right up to the end. And I think it was, there wasn't consensus on the board of what the project should be.
Okay.
And I think the information got out really late to people. Like it was going out in February, only a few weeks in advance. And I think just like a handful of renderings and some floor plans as you first walk into the school that just says, hey, we're working on the design and development of this cool upcoming like school renovation. And just kind of leave it at that is just will stir interest and create questions.
We also needed to have the information in town board meetings, on Facebook, in places where people were. We invited people to come to the school, not a lot of people came. And while we did that sort of open forum, it was hard to get the information in front of people because we were not where the people were. And in part because what I'm hearing here is all of our board members talking about what they will do. And Cheryl and I have some constraints on us that I cannot go out and say, you should vote yes. I'm not allowed to do that. And board members can go and tell people and argue for some of these things. You also have to make sure, though, that you're giving information, not telling people what to do. Right. But there are some constraints on the administration. And really, the push for this should be coming, not from me and Cheryl and Craig. It should be coming from the board.
I stated that we do different than Green Mountain. The biggest step board members, unity members, probably had a voice. We're all, it just seemed like everybody, it seemed like it just wasn't on the same page. We came, like we're seeing here, it wasn't so much that in a different school district. And this is convenient. It's well, everybody is very, we know done and we're moving in the direction.
You also have two schools located in two towns, and everybody sees directly, I live in this town and this is my school. And that's where and Green Mountain struggled with a high school that pulls from everywhere. It's a little harder for everybody to get behind that. But as you said, the consensus is here and it's here early. And when the entire board says, we think this is a great thing, you have a very different reaction than when the people aren't so sure.
And I just want to add one thing, Becky.
No, go ahead.
That the task force, one of the things we did discuss pretty early on was that we're not looking at it as Ludlow Elementary. For Ludlow people, we're going to do this in Mount Holly, but that they're all our kids. Right. And we are one district and we want it to be equitable for all of our kids. And I think that's really important to say as we try to sell this. We didn't say, oh, Ludlow gets this much and Mount Holly gets this much. We said, what does each school really need?
Yeah.
And it was really fortunate that by doing it based on what each facility really needs and not a bunch of extra frivolous things. It ended up, there's somewhat different things, like, you know, like the roof here is different than the roof in Mount Holly, but the overall amount is very.
You're looking at a lot of the same stuff. I mean, it's interesting that this one, you have this big ticket of the roof. Yeah. And at Mount Holly, you have this big ticket that's the addition.
Yeah, right.
But if you look outside of those two things,
everything else
it's a lot of infrastructure and then classroom improvements.
Yeah.
So.
All right, go ahead, Dave.
Even though we don't need it, as a measure of solidarity, I'd like to make a motion that we move ahead with this project.
Okay.
It would be nice to see it unanimous.
All right, and Jude seconds it. Any more discussion on this project? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So, yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank Todd for all the background work that
Yeah.
he did, because you really helped us out behind the scenes.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep,
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Todd, you're next.
Good. All right, welcome back, everybody. Start our school year is right around the corner. Schools are in really good shape and moving in a direction, so we're prepared to open on time. Can everybody hear me out in Zoom world? Okay. The flood, hopefully everybody is moving in a better direction. Very devastating. Chester as well. I mean, I was caught in it on the other side of town, so no law enforcement, and it was scary for everybody, right? Everywhere we went. It is nice to see how all the communities came
Yeah,
together.
they sure did.
Everybody. I mean, we saw it more in Ludlow because there was more devastation, but even the outlying community, just everybody seemed to come together, and it was really nice to see. No real big damage at our schools. A little bit of damage here at Ludlow Elementary and the playgrounds, and Chet and Mike took care of that themselves, so that worked out pretty good. I called Craig and Al the next day, no damage at Mount Holly. So not a lot to report after Eric talked, but we do have one thing, PFAS. So I talked to Craig Jewett at length yesterday, and good news, bad news, worse news. So the good news is they've already lined up electrical contractors, building contractors, concrete contractors. Everybody's ready to go. They could build that building in the next 2 weeks. The testing and everything is all done. The equipment is ready to push send, order. The state is telling us now with all the flood and all the FEMA problems and everything that's going on, there will not be money available at the earliest until next year. We will not see any funding. He said it's just not gonna happen. He's been in contact with them, and he was very clear with that they're just, we're ready, he's ready, they're ready, we have the plans in place, and there is no money. There's money, but they're not gonna release it. So here we are. Like I told you at the TRSU meeting, I hate to really say anything because we're dealing with the state, and the state is just sitting on that, and they're just not gonna see it, not right off. So when, I don't know. And Lauren knows me well enough. I hate saying I don't know, but I don't know. We're dealing with the state. So Craig was optimistic about next summer, sometime before they release funds.
Engineering.
No, Otter Valley or
Otter Creek Engineering.
And then what's the cost?
Oh, I don't even know. I wouldn't even dare guess. So yeah, it's well over $1 million now. Yeah. So
Wasn't it some kind of grant?
Yeah.
it was grant funded.
But it was your grant that's been earmarked for PFAS mitigation?
That would be a question for Craig. I don't, when it comes to the financials of that, he's been, maybe Cheryl knows.
Well, so we were applying for additional money. So we don't technically have all that grant, although they guaranteed us that we're gonna get it. They
Right.
just didn't guarantee us when.
That's the great thing about a grant, it can go away.
Yeah. So, and on the flip side, not PFAS, but want to make sure we all remember too, way back, the state, we filled out all of our paperwork. Every school district had to fill out paperwork on, that's how they determined where your building infrastructures were, end of useful life. They're still working on that. I mean, Lauren even said it could be 5 years or 8 years. When I go to the facilities directors meetings for the state, they're still telling us that if we do a major infrastructure job and they approve this money 5 years from now, we are going to be grandfathered back to try to receive some of that money. Now, it may be the same thing. I agree with it, Dave, but it's good news. It's better than them saying, well, if you do the work now, you're not getting any money. So it's better than them saying that we're not going to get anything. And I'm going to reiterate what Judy said. I went through the whole process with Green Mountain Board, the long drawn out process for the bond. In this task force, we met a lot. And it was awesome working with the people. It was just a lot of different insights, but very open and everybody came together and came up with this plan. It was a lot of work, but it was well worth it. I think we're moving in a really, really good direction.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, any questions for me?
Yeah, I would just second what Tom said.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Well, and maybe I could move to thank the community members
Yes.
who participated and made a big difference in helping moving it along.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then Bruce Smith was there until the flood, and he's been distracted since. But yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Beautiful. Administration reports, we got superintendents. Go ahead, Lauren.
Todd talked a bit about the flooding, difficult for everyone when we're found on top of last several years of challenging. And as he said, it's towns and communities extraordinarily helpful and supportive. We're hoping that we're going to continue to get some funding from FEMA, but as with all funding things, it's a wait and see. Local banks, the M&T reached out to Deb and I think to Craig as well to provide school supplies. There have been a number of people who have said consistently, not only trying to help all our community members, but also asking, what is the school going to need? What are children going to need? And we really appreciate hearing that from the Ludlow communities, Mount Holly folks as well. But I want everybody to know if there are people specifically in need. It's a little difficult when school isn't in session. People don't always contact the schools. So let us know if there are things that anybody needs. First day of school, August 30th, for students. That's hard to believe. Yes, I remember days of being really happy about
Remember the
that.
Staples commercial? It's the most wonderful thing.
Absolutely. Our new teacher orientation will be happening next week from the 14th through the 17th. Our teacher in-service days are August 24th and 25th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. The 24th is for everyone at Green Mountain and to talk about TRSU, system-wide work. We have an inspirational speaker who will be talking to us as well. The 25th is everyone in their own buildings working with principals. The 28th on Monday is another 3-day weekend for all of our staff. And then on the 29th is the third day of in-service, which belongs to teachers to set up their rooms, to do whatever meeting with each other that they need to do. It's an in-service, but it's not in-service from the TRSU or from the building. It's teacher controlled and teacher directed. Let's see, the agendas for all of that will go out to all of our teachers shortly. We heard from our attorney that the litigation has been filed. Monsanto's been sending personnel to the high school to observe our sampling process, so we're working on that. Our retreat work, what we should have been talking about when we had the board retreat that had to be canceled for July 20th, we're going to talk about in some other pieces of the agenda here. All our new principals, including Deb, participated in several meetings over the course of July. It's a great group. We're so lucky. Wonderful to have people with Deb's level of experience and enthusiasm. We came together for our first meeting in middle of July when people were getting to know each other, and then 4 days of administrative work. And we have a team in a very short period of time where all of the principals have gotten to know each other and are working collaboratively. It's a beautiful thing. I suspect Deb and Craig will both talk about that a little in their work. Formed the team very quickly. I'm really looking forward to working with everyone. At the moment in Ludlow and Mount Holly, all of our teacher positions are currently filled. So that's however, we need bus drivers for both Mount Holly and Ludlow. And we still need, we're still short we were short 4, we're still short 2 for Green Mountain. And there are some open para positions in some of our schools as well. So if people want to drive a bus, get them to give us a call. Our norms as a group from last year remain in effect until we meet again as an entire board to talk about those things, until we conduct a new retreat. We're presuming good intentions from everyone, trying not to have surprises. So I will let Paul know when things are coming up before the meetings happen. And ideally, you and he are letting me and administration know. So none of us are at a board meeting going, wait a minute, where did that come from? We want to show respect for everybody and work collaboratively. We went over the PD priorities at the administrative retreat, which was July 24th through the 27th. We talked about multiple layers of student supports and LSS, data teams and data use, our literacy push for K-6 for our teachers and PLP work, personalized learning portfolio. Our students in grades 3 to 9 are working on their individual portfolios, involve work on essential skills and dispositions. And the rest of what I have, we'll talk about in each of these individual items throughout the agenda. Are there questions?
Questions, comments for Lauren? All right, hearing
Thank you.
none. All right, cool. Thank you, Lauren. All right, next we got principal reports. I'm gonna start with Deb. Hello, Deb.
Welcome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so mute is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. iPads are new to me. Haven't used it, so I'm zooming in from Florida. I'm on vacation with my family. So I appreciate you allowing me to have this time with them before I dive into a new school year. As Lauren said, we worked amazingly hard during the leadership retreat.
Oh.
Boom. All right,
Sadness.
well,
Sadness.
I guess we'll-
She'll sign back.
Yeah, all right, well, all right, Craig, guess you'll hold on, there she is. Yep,
That was fast.
right. We see you, just gotta unmute.
All
There you
right. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. We spent time learning about curriculum and priorities for the school district. I have met with most of the school teaching staff this summer. They've come in for office hours. I'm so excited to have such an amazing staff to work with and such an amazing leadership team to work with. I have put out a newsletter to staff and to families already, and I will continue to do that. I will not put out a staff newsletter for this week, but we'll do one the following week, and did one for families for the month of August, and we'll update that. I also was able, as Lauren said, we've been in contact with different people trying to help with school supplies, and an organization with the acronym READ, Restore Education After Disasters, will be dropping off 25 backpacks with school supplies for students in Ludlow. So we're excited to have those for our students as we move forward with the new school year. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be part of such an amazing team and such an amazing community. And there's so much I'm learning. And if anyone wants to stop by and visit, and I'd happily take you on a tour of the building and show you what I've learned so far, and happy to learn what you know about the school and what your visions are for the school. So
All right.
that's about all I have.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Deb. All right, thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Nice.
Go ahead, Craig.
Okay, so I have a lot of things that both Deb and Lauren already touched on, so I won't belabor them, but it has been wonderful to see the community rallying together after the devastating floods. The leadership retreat was absolutely fantastic. We had an amazing team. Deb and I have met outside of those meetings and meeting with the new principals too, because I'm the only principal left. So they had a lot of questions for me. And we really do have a lot of talent on this new leadership team. There's a few partnerships that are either new or kind of rekindling. So over the years, we've always been partners with the Black River Area Community Coalition, BRAC. They went through a little bit of a hiatus in the last couple of years and recently had a leadership change. So they're partnering now with what's called the Collaborative out of Londonderry, and they do a lot of community building and community support work, substance abuse prevention, visit families. They have a new executive director. Her name is Lauren Ingersoll. So I met with her, and she's got a lot of creative ideas to work with us in our after-school programs, and just really forward-thinking person. I recently was, I heard by email from an old student, a person who graduated from Mount Holly School. Her name's Sadie Kopinen, and she is now a graduate student, and she works for an organization called Vote the Vermont Outdoor Adventure Program. So they're connected to Rutland Mental Health and Community Services, and they partner with schools to help go on hikes and kayaking and other outdoor adventure activities. And so we met last week, and we're going to be meeting again before the start of school to look at how we can, partner with funding and more opportunities for our kids. Al Lewis and I presented to the American Legion down here in Ludlow and talked about our flagpole, which, because of where it is, gets always bent because when the winter comes and they are plowing the snow, and it just feels really disrespectful to us to have that happening to the flagpole. So we went to them to talk about, they come up every Memorial Day and do a nice celebration with our kids. And afterwards, Ned Bowen and I were talking, and he said, come down and tell us about the situation with your flagpole. And they generously decided to fund a brand new flagpole and help us install it with the excavation work and everything that needs to happen. And it's going to be right to the left as you go in the front door in that little grassy area, right in the center there. And really nice feature of that location is that there's outdoor lighting right there. So a light can always be on the flag. So
That's awesome.
thanks to Ned and American Legion for that generous support. I won't go into the facility stuff because we talked about it so much, but that's been a really great process. A lot of really good people providing a lot of good insights. Al Lewis and Joe Winley have been doing a great job on summer projects around the facilities, all the floors, rugs, rebuilt the back wall of Bob Ruley's classroom, painted the whole outside of the second half of the school this year. Last year, the first half. So, and replaced some siding that needed to be fixed, a bunch of other things, but a lot of nice improvements. Last month, I mentioned briefly the idea of trying to partner with the AOE and Vermont State University in Castleton in particular around a flexible cohort plan for pathway for paras who want to become teachers. Zoe actually went to a conference a few weeks ago up in Burlington. It was all about the workforce crisis, basically the shortage of people in the education field, from bus drivers to teachers to you name it. And they really kind of latched on to this idea. And it was a really interesting conference because there were people from AOE, the state university systems, the Vermont Department of Labor, colleges beyond, like privates like Goddard and Middlebury, and just so many different types of stakeholders really have their sights set on trying to find some systemic ways of
The other one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that conference is going to be followed up with a meeting of all those same stakeholders in the fall. So that hopefully will provide some fruitful solutions. We are in need. The one position we have is just a long-term sub, so it's not a permanent position, but we do need a long-term sub for special education. And as Lauren mentioned, the other position is the bus driver position. We're trying to do everything we can. I've got a couple of parents who are thinking about maybe one of them doing it in the morning and one of them doing the afternoon run, but they're not sure. The CDL is a huge obstacle. It's a huge expense. And now that the school bus endorsement is so much more onerous to get, that's another obstacle or hurdle built on top of that.
Do we pay for the CDL? And if no, why not?
We will. We're certainly willing to discuss it. We don't generally pay for people to renew their CDL, but when somebody is getting ready to start it to begin with, we've talked about it. And it's what we've done in the past is we pay for the endorsement.
Yeah.
If we're paying for the CDL, then we have to be very clear with everybody that they need to give us 2 years of their time, otherwise they have to pay us back. Because otherwise we tend to get people who would like to have their CDL paid for it so they can go and do that school bus
I
ride.
understand.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
So it's we can look.
So we'll consider it depending on the candidate, but it's not something that we just automatically say we'll do.
Right. That's a good question. I did put out the summer letter to staff and families yesterday, and I did include an update on the fact that we have no bus driver at this point. And even if these two parents were to commit to taking over the morning run and the afternoon run, realistically, we're not going to have any bus service to start the year. So I asked for people to let me know, if this is going to create a hardship, or, so I can help put families together in their carpool, or, see if people need after school program support, whatever supports they might need will certainly help to organize.
Just a question, crazy one as usual. If we were to go to a Sprinter van kind of thing, does that require a CDL?
Yes. The only way to have, we've looked into this, the only way to do something that doesn't require CDL, but it requires a bus driver endorsement. And if you have a van that has more than 6 people in it, so 5 students and a driver, you can do without the bus driver endorsement. Anything more than that, and you need the bus driver endorsement.
And the bus driver endorsement is predicated on a CDL?
To the best of my knowledge.
Yes,
Yes.
that's accurate.
Yes. Okay.
Is there a staffing agency or something we can hire a bus driver on a temporary basis?
No, and part of why you can't usually find that is that there are a number of companies that do bus fleets. Not every school does what we have done and run their own fleet.
Right.
They hire for student or buffer, there's another one around here. And because of that, most of the sort of temporary bus drivers that might be available tend to be filtered into that. And we've looked at the possibility of hiring those places. It has not been, it's not been something people have seen as being cost effective because of where they're located. Because they're located either far north or far south, and we have the need for a single bus, and you have to pay the bus driver to have traveled from Brattleboro up to here, then do the bus run, then travel back down to Brattleboro. And it certainly is something that we can bring the specific costs to you, but in order to provide bus service for a dozen students, that level of cost, when most families are able to bring their students in, has not been one that the boards have seen as being a reasonable use of the funds. It's up to the boards, though. You can certainly consider those as possibilities.
I guess.
I'm sorry, may I speak?
Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, so a couple of months ago, in one of the meetings, I had brought up that I had someone who wanted to ride the bus, and she said she would only do it if the board, if the school paid for the CDL, and you guys had said no. So, but to contact you guys anyway, and hopefully you guys can work something out. So now, should I tell her that you are willing to pay for it, depending on her commitment to you and all of that, just so I can kind of try to get her on board again?
Please tell her to contact us and we'll have a conversation about it. But it's not an automatic, but it is something.
She can't afford it. That was the big thing. And, she would love to have the job. So I'll see if she's still interested, and I'll have her contact you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Do you have information on how many students in each school rely on the bus to get to school?
Roughly.
There's usually about a dozen is kind of the average number. Sometimes it can float up to 15 to 20. Once the after school program starts, usually there's a little bit of a delay. It's not right from the very first day, and it ends a week before the last week of school. So those little shoulders, that's an inflated number. But the fact that the after school program runs till 5, the afternoon seems easier for people for the most part. Although I did get a response from my letter yesterday, today, from a family that's not able to get back in time for the 5 o'clock pickup. So we're gonna try to work around some carpooling maybe or some creative solution.
Well, those are similar number, it's about a dozen. And we had difficulty with the bus driver being reliable this past year.
Yeah.
And we did not have, at least not that was referred to me, families that consistently were unable to get their children to school anyway. It's difficult. Nobody wants it to be this way, but we didn't have anybody without the bus, I just can't do it.
The one thing, like, me around before the Green Mountain bus, they wouldn't even give us a price on sending a bus up there because it was not, they couldn't do it. Couldn't travel that far and first service, that's this side anymore at all. They won't, we're like, even if we wanted to, we don't do it. So, kind of in a location. It's easy to, you know, like, board member from Green Mountain went, and it took better part of 7. It's a long, drawn out, tedious, costly venture to drive school bus for a couple morning and a couple hours. I don't discourage anybody, but honest people about how complicated it is.
And we want to be clear that we want to help support people for it, but the reason we wouldn't do it automatically is we might wind up in a situation where we spent $4,000 or $5,000 for someone who never completes the process.
Yeah.
So, and that's not really a path we want to be going down.
Or they do it for a short period of time and go on to a higher pay.
And we may tell them that they have to reimburse us if they don't stay for X amount of time. And then we have a legal event of trying to go after them in order to get it back. Exactly. So we are reluctant to do that unless we're pretty clear about it.
So would it be cheaper to buy 2 vans with no CDL requirements?
Some cute little Chryslers.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm seeing that like some schools are doing that. A van is not cheap and like
It's a lot of
Lawrence,
liability.
there's liability and you can only take 5 kids.
Yeah,
So,
understood. But if we only have 12 to begin with.
The problem.
Say we only have 12.
Well, I know we
The
have.
truth
I
is
know other-
that
Okay, I understand.
most of those families are able to transport their kids.
You still need a lot of the
Oh,
You just brought it up.
that, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing besides the day-to-day to and from school. You know, that it's hard to imagine we would have enough volunteer family drivers to do things like the winter sports program. It might be possible, but and field trips and things that have a lot of real educational value. It's really so important.
All right. What else? Anything else? Is that it?
I think
Ended with the school bus? All right, we're good. Right. All right, well, thank you, Craig. Anything, questions? No? All right, beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, curriculum reports.
And so Ann Gardner
Yeah,
is not here. She is transitioning now from being our curriculum director, and starting on August 24th, she will be a classroom teacher at Green Mountain. She's continuing to be our COVID recovery coordinator until that completes in September of 24. She will continue to run our mentor program and do a number of pieces of that. Emma Vastola and Julie Para are taking over the bulk of the curriculum responsibilities for the remainder of this year. We will be advertising for a new curriculum director. We'll be putting that ad up in a couple of months and doing interviews and hopefully hiring somebody somewhere around, not to begin this year, but to begin July 1st. We'll be looking to hire somebody, I hope by October, November, that we will have good candidates because we're able to do a year a year in advance of looking for people. Julie, were you going to share with us some things tonight?
I did not have a report for tonight, and Lauren.
Check, I didn't,
Right.
That's fine.
I didn't think you did, but I just wanted to know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's the perfect time not to have a report. But thank you for showing up. All right, so you're good there?
Yep.
Any questions on that? All right, excellent. All right, go ahead, Cheryl, your turn.
Okay, so you have June 30th financial reports for the year end in the folder, as well as kind of a year-end notes of a summary of what happened, which I will actually share with you. I reported to the TRSU board on last Thursday about where we with the special ed, central office, and transportation. And on Friday, I got an email from Brad James that said, oh yeah, don't forget, our funding formula changed this. We got a block grant, but they also, the extraordinary reimbursement, which is the expenses over $60,000 that we spend on children, we get reimbursed 95% of that. In addition, they've added 60% of that 60,000 to that reimbursement. So it's up to that reimbursement. So it was another $404,000 that we'll be getting back. And Lauren and I, she goes, are you sure that's right?
Are you sure? What's going on here?
Yeah, so I also found a calculation error that I did, so it was a bonus on Monday to find out the things. The good news is that it put you in a positive surplus position of $214,000. So the sheet I have up here, that we have the carryover of $284,405 from that should be 22 carryover, not 23 carryover. And we're going to add 214. So going into next budget year, we have 497, almost $500,000 then in your fund balance to use for the budget or put into reserve or whatever else you want to do.
PFAS building. That's half.
Additional special education staff.
Yeah, that too.
I noticed that the expeditionary school got approval from the state, so does that mean we have to like our tuition?
So they were counted when we did it. I think I put them in at 15, which is what the previous director had told me before when we were budgeting. I think that'll probably change. It is a little bit of a concern where we're gonna end up, but we have kids floating in and out and moving schools and, schools contacting us, so we've never had kids have before. So, yeah, it could be a concern. One of the
We did include it in the budget.
We did include it.
I remember that.
I just don't know if we included it enough. But the other thing that happens, and we talked about this during budget season, is that we do announce tuition. So we get our budget built, and then days before we're getting ready to approve it, we get notifications from all these school districts around us of what they set their tuition at. And generally, it's gone up. We're fortunate with Green Mountain and what that was. And so we took care of that, but I've seen a few others that have gone up. We did talk about last year when we were doing this about maybe taking some money of the surplus money and putting it into a tuition reserve so that we could buffer that with our budgets and not, keep doing that. So that's a possibility of what we can do with fund balance. That would have to go to the taxpayers on the ballot and ask them if they want allow us to do it.
Thanks.
So Triple E was over by 98,000, and this is a split out between Ludlow and Green Mountain, as well as the special ed balance that we had a savings of the 267 and Ludlow, Mount Holly got 88 in Green Mountain, and that's based on child count. That's how we split that out. But I've also listed some things that we were over, some places that we had savings that you can look at. I also pulled out food service. Generally, food service, we end up budgeting in a deficit. It's just kind of the way food service has always worked with the universal meals and supply chain grants and local incentive money. We ended up $1,000 to the good, so I consider that a big win.
Yeah, lower down a little bit, we can't see.
Oh. There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we sure you're talking, this is a lot of good news here?
Stand wrong?
No.
You're going.
No?
Don't go out and spend any money.
Keep going.
Yeah. No, I don't know, I'm sure.
Yeah, hopefully it's like this all the time.
Yeah, I mean, so what's gonna happen with that special ed in the funding formula is that we are on the higher end. I don't have the numbers, so I can't tell you off the top of my head. But we're at like 2,700 and change per student that we get reimbursed for a block grant. Where they want us to be is more like about 25,000. Or maybe it's even less than that, I can't remember off the top of my head. And so it's gonna set down. So that block grant's gonna decrease over the next 3 or 4 years. And so that's gonna add to, it's gonna take away this good news that we got going on right now. So the full financials in there, the sheet's in there for you to review when you have a chance. I've also in the folder have the special funds, so the the capital improvement, the transportation reserve, which we pretty much depleted to buy the bus. I think there's $284 in there, but we'll work back at that. We may want to evaluate whether we're going to do that at this point. As well as any of the donation accounts. Mount Holly has quite a few that I keep trying to get Craig to spend, and he hasn't yet. As scholarship accounts and student activity, that type of thing. And that's very small at the elementary level, but that report's in there. So the only other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the heating oil bid. 'Tis the season. To do that, we did it in September of last year. So my question to you, Green Mountain posed this question out, and I'm posing it to you. They were about 10 cents higher on their bid than you were, just because Irving Oil gives us a bid that day and it's good until midnight. And so Green Mountain met that 8 days later, and the rate was 10 cents higher. And so they wanted.
You lose.
Well, it's the timing of the meeting. So their suggestion last year, I don't know if they still want to do it, but I'm putting it out to you first, was that we go out for one bid to come back on the same day, and it's approved by the TRSU board.
Mm-hmm.
Any reason not to?
I mean, think we'll get a better deal?
No, because
It doesn't matter.
It's all about the market price on the day that we have it to.
There is gonna be this year because I've heard HV
Right.
on it as well.
Right.
Last year we bidders on.
We had two bids. We had Coda and Irving.
Yeah.
And now each wants to.
Right.
So, but it's up to you.
So it's something where you could just ask for the bid the day before?
No, I'll put it out to bid and tell them I need it by 1 o'clock the day of the TRSU meeting. And then they'd have to make a decision that night. If they didn't, then we'd have to get a new bid. If they were the only ones that bid, we'd have to rebid it.
Essentially, you're deciding whether you want your 3 TRSU reps to make the decision or you want your whole board to make the decision.
Yes, that's the end result.
No matter to me.
Okay, either way.
Yeah.
You guys did have a lot of discussion about it last year, but it was higher. It should be substantially less this year.
But they're still separate bids, is that right?
No, it'll be one. So I
I mean, is there a company that might want to do us, that wouldn't want to do
yes.
them?
Yeah, so I offered the bid out that way, that they can, but they have to do it by district. They can't just say I'm coming to Mount Holly.
Right.
I want to bid by district, but they have that ability to break it out. So there is potential that you would get an additional bidder that was just for Ludlow-Mount.
So the
I have
bids,
not seen that happen though.
the bids will come in for the separate GM in LMH?
If they did it that way.
If the bidder did it that way, or the bidder can do a single bid for all of the buildings.
Yeah.
Got it. I guess my perspective is I know I'm not a voting member on the TRSU, but I guess if I knew the meeting that this was going to be coming up, then I would attend and, hear and offer, feedback and so that I am fine with the plan that you described.
What day that can even be.
Is there a downside to this, Joe? I mean,
Whenever they get
Sure.
those.
You're just not having any board discussion about it.
Any downside in relation to Green Mountain, doing it or not doing it?
No, think with them. I mean, I may have the same conversation with them next Thursday, and they may not think it's as good of idea as they thought it was last year.
It's not the same board.
It is not the same board, you know. And if that's the case, then I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna bring your bid on the September 5th, 13th, and I'll bring their bid on September 21st.
Right.
Go Judy.
Lauren, I still call you Lauren. Cheryl, what is your recommendation? What do you think the best way would be? I don't know that I have a preference.
It doesn't really affect.
I mean, it's easier to have it one and done and we're over it, but you're losing that board discussion on it.
But you still have 3 LMH board members
Right,
and 3 GM.
yes.
And like Julie said, I'm going to be part of it.
Take the cheapest, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's what
It's a higher one.
I mean, we can do the TRSU, and if we didn't like it, we can just rebid for individual boards, right? I mean,
We don't have to say yes.
well, we don't have to say yes.
Let's just do our board. If there's somebody absent, and I've been absent for a lot of TRSU meetings, then we could, I don't know if it makes a difference, but we could be outvoted.
Right, but I mean, I think in that case, everybody's gonna go for the lowest bid. Yeah. That's what I think. It's not,
You all have the same interests. Both boards are looking for the same. What's the,
Least we can.
What's the least?
for the next board meeting. With Irving, we have to fulfill, I think it's 95% of our contract, so if I go out to bid for 10,000 gallons, we need, which is a low number, but we have to spend by, or otherwise we have to pay them. Ludlow-Mount didn't have a problem, but it was touch and go for Green Mountain for a little while.
But would, is there any advantage or is there any way that we could actually have a combined bid? For TRS, all the schools, because maybe we get better rates?
Well, essentially that's what
You're trying to do?
well. That's the way I present the bid.
Okay.
That's not necessarily the way that they bid.
Interesting.
Well, if somebody can attend from LMH for TRSU, wouldn't we have an alternate? I might be the
You're the-
alternate.
you are.
You
Sounds familiar. I've only been pressed into service once. So we shouldn't have the issue that you were talking about because we would have, a full complement of. Yeah, it seems just more efficient.
Let's try it for a year, and if we don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see it as a management decision. Yeah, if you want to do it one way or the other way, then we want
let's
to.
give it a whirl, right? Give it a whirl.
See what Green Mountain says, and then we'll
Maybe
go
we'll
from
get a
there.
better price.
But if one of the bids is only for LMH, we wouldn't have enough people to take a vote at the TRSU meeting to accept it, right?
Correct.
And the price would expire.
It's not how much the bidder is.
Well, why would
And
you
actually-
vote against that?
But it's actually
Just a
not
little
true
amount.
that you wouldn't. But the only, if you're putting it in front of the TRSU board, you're looking for approval from the TRSU board.
Right.
Even if the bid is only for Ludlow-Mount Holly, the TRSU board
Could.
can approve it.
Okay,
And the
understood.
GM people would have to not want us to get a good.
And they would,
Yeah, I also think
You have four
that
people
gets a little
voting.
bit sticky though, because if someone's voted on the full thing. But we want to set.
There's the potential for some interesting things, it's
Yes.
true,
Yeah.
but they're
Probably
unlikely.
overthinking it.
It's
Yeah.
unlikely.
Interesting, we don't need.
And if we get that, then we'll not do it again.
There you go. All right, very good.
And it could be a great example of Ludlow-Mount Holly and Green Mountain working together.
Let's do that.
Oh, that'd be great. We're waiting.
Sounds good.
All right.
Is that it? All right. Anything else on that? No? All right. So let's move it along here. Sorry, it's past 8. We have second read policies. We have 8 policies here. And to streamline things, I was wondering if anyone had any concerns about any of these current 8 policies. We have 2 months to look at them, so plenty of time for reading. And the one thing that I read in the other notes was for the C3, the addition of the new language was under public comments on agenda items. And that is the chair has the discretion to ask for comments on agenda items before action is taken by the board. So that's what we wanted in there for the policies. So if everybody's good with all the policies, I'll look for a motion to move C3, D1, D2, D10, D12, D18, F3, and F4. You know, Dave B made the motion, Dave N seconded. All right, any discussion on those policies? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye, raise a hand. Opposed? All right, thank you, beautiful. Next is there's scheduling of the board retreat. So we talked about this at the TRSU board meeting, and we are gonna try to reschedule it either September, October. And Lauren's gonna reach out to the facilitator, and then we're gonna send out a poll to all the board members. Again, we thought it was very important to have this board retreat because a couple of these other items we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about, and this is gonna be your homework for the board retreat. So, any questions on that? All right, next is the portrait of a graduate.
So I'm not gonna, we're late, so I'm not gonna belabor all of this either. But everybody had shared with them in anticipation of the retreat in July, a folder that is Google folder of TRSU board goals. And within that folder, and if you haven't seen it, I'll share it with everybody again so that you get an email with it. Then within that folder are the portrait of a graduate descriptions and the draft of the work that we did. If people want a hard copy of it, I have them here, but you can also see all of that online along with the descriptions of them. Would you like?
You have them.
Here you go. I don't have the hard copy of the descriptors, but that is available online as well.
Cool. Does it go beyond, simple yes or no, does it go beyond these 2 papers, like the work?
Yes,
beyond?
yes. So this forms the basis.
Beyond that.
So this forms the basis of what I hope will be our work for creation of an updated vision statement. Because our vision statement and mission statement for the TRSU was formed in 2013, and it's probably time to update that. The world is a little different now than it was then, although a lot of things are the same. So we begin to use these as as our image that we use on all of our documents. It'll show up on our website, and we use these competencies and the descriptions of them as our definition of success. When people have completed 12 years within our system, this is what a graduate should be able to do. This is not the numbers in terms of testing, but in terms of a graduate should be an empathetic person able to do critical thinking, who is adaptable, and we have descriptions of it. So it is something that all of our teachers should be aware of, all of our parents should be aware of, and this image and these descriptors should be something that everybody is saying, this is when we talk about success at Two Rivers Supervisory Union, these are the things we're talking about. So we'll do more of that when we are at the retreat.
Yep, right.
And you can find all of that on the, in the folder with those descriptions as we're working our way through it. Similarly.
What does academic excellence mean down the bottom of that?
Yeah, so what academic excellence means, we have the beginning of the definition of that for K through 6. We have not settled on how we're defining academic excellence for our 7 through 12. People are talking about it. I suspect that everybody feels that they understand what academic excellence means, but we don't have a written description of when we say excellence, what we mean by that. I know what I mean.
The reason I ask is that these items are kind of touchy-feely items. Is there anything that says they can read and do?
That's academic excellence.
Okay,
And that's why we have academic excellence there, is that, because a number of us had the same reaction you're having. So it's all very well and good to say that a graduate is somebody who communicates well, is responsible, is collaborative. But if they can't read, write, communicate effectively, do math, understand science concepts, I don't think they are a successful graduate.
right, well, I concur. How do we get to the academic excellence?
Well, that is our definition of success. And in order to do that, we have to have the discussion that'll last more than 5 minutes.
Okay.
Right, that's not the board retreat.
No, okay.
So, yeah, this is homework to think of, like, to think of things for the board retreat.
There you go.
So, exactly, so that's what I'm told, we've got lots of homework, so gotta come prepared.
So
It's really good
the,
you're asking that though,
Yeah.
because that is the heart of what we're really striving for. It's excellent.
so also in that folder is the overall definition of success, which, again, you can have the hard copy of it. That we have some actual numbers associated with things, I'm sorry, got a few more here. For K through 6, we haven't done the, and in terms of academic success at the high school, all of our students, in order to graduate, they have to show that they have achieved our definition of proficient in a set of standards associated with each content area, all of which will be created. No, it is created, it exists already. You can't graduate from the high school unless you have done those things.
Any questions? It's just. No, we're good.
I just have.
So,
I'm sorry.
we're good, we'll talk about this a lot more at the retreat,
We will.
or you can contact Lori.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to talk at any kind of length about specifics of these things, give me a call. I'm glad to have people come in and sit and we can pull up numbers and look at all those pieces of paper that just doesn't work well to try to do that at 8 o'clock at night. I'm ready to talk to you about it.
I apologize for repeating that.
No, it's all right. Well, you and I talk on the phone about these things all the time, David, so it's all good. And that's
That's it,
mine, and now yours.
We're all good with that, so homework for the retreat. So next is superintendent search. So at the TRC board meeting, I'm gonna reach out to NESDEC. They do superintendent searches and a VSBA. And I'm gonna get some information from them, and then hopefully maybe they'll be able to talk to us the next TRC board meeting and see what the next steps are gonna be. So that's pretty much what happened with that. So we're gonna have someone give us a hand doing it, because none of us are experts at hiring a superintendent.
That's great.
So, all right, we're good with that. Any question on that? All right. So if you want to see these people, hopefully there'll be someone
Yeah,
presenting.
there's a website,
Right,
which is nesdec.org.
right, that's it.
Where did you get that company?
We're gonna, Lauren.
It's New England, it's a New England search
Yeah.
firm. And I've had contact with them in the past, connected with things out of Connecticut. They do searches for districts in Vermont, in Connecticut, and Massachusetts, all around New England. I'm not saying you should use them, they're just one on the
Right, that's all. I want to check them out and VSBA and see what our options are.
VSBA is the search.
They
Yes,
will help with it
yes,
too.
they will help with the search. Right, but I think it'd be nice to like get someone else into and just see like, just to compare.
I'm aware through my professional work of one or two other places that do nonprofit.
Okay, so
executive searches.
email them to me and I'm gonna reach out to whoever I can and
Yes.
see what we can do. More options, the better, and then our board can make a decision.
There are a handful of places around New England that specialize in doing school, principal, school, cabinet level, school superintendents.
What they call it.
Good with that? All right, next, new business, ASP presentation by Kyle.
Who's waited patiently.
Hey, everybody. I know we're way over time, so I'll keep it brief, but just wanted to do a quick review what happened this summer with the Go Wild program, and then just a few things about the upcoming year. So as you may know, we ran for 6 of our planned 7 weeks of program here at Ludlow. I looked at enrollment and we, from any given week, it was 31 to 41 students were enrolled, and I looked at the ADA and we were about 29 a day. So like was mentioned earlier, the flood heavily impacted not only the community, but also our staff. Several staff were really hit hard. So we definitely experienced some turbulence with staffing this summer around that. Yeah, it's been, given those circumstances, been pretty good. We got field trips out almost every week. I went on one today at the Vins. The other challenges we had is we had some billing issues. If there's any parents listening or involved with the program, you would have received some messages about billing problems. Yeah. So also want to give big props to Sarah Tate, who is the coordinator of the program, who's stuck with all of these challenges and stepped in a lot to roles that, that weren't designated as planned for her. So couple things about after school program. I'm hoping to get enrollment started next week. There's some system stuff I have to set up with the program and then we'll be sending out enrollment info to parents. We're ready to go at Ludlow and Mount Holly. Fortunate to have Julie Garay returning at Mount Holly and Sarah Tate here. So yeah.
This last year, there was some, I don't per se need, and I know parents don't need after school sometimes, but there were certain activities that were associated with certain days, so I would pay because like my kid would want to do woodworking or, something like that. Or is it just a blanket? Because I think it was as of like last year, it was just like a blanket program, so we never signed up. Will there be, different things to do, like for the days, like Monday's woodworking and Tuesday's dodgeball or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's an area that is definitely an area that we'll be working on, is just getting a little more structure and to the programs. We had for a program here, the drama club that put on the play, right? And parents really knew when that was happening and signed up for those days. So yeah, I hope to have more of those designated things and that parents know that is happening. Yeah. And I've heard that concern. So.
I'm a heavy user of the program.
Great.
And the last year, I'm sure you've heard the history, or I'm sure you're knowledgeable about that. But I wonder if there's been any work to re-engage some of the teachers who had been part of the program for years and then, because of reasons, decided not to participate last year, and whether any of that work you've undertaken any of that.
Yeah, you're speaking to Ludlow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my hope is that we have some of these activities, like was mentioned, that we have particular activities and that would teachers would hopefully be interested in, not being a generalist, but teaching, for example,
Science with Mrs. Marks.
Exactly. And those types of programs, like we can say, hey, is there a teacher that's interested in doing drama? Is there a teacher that's interested in doing that? And hopefully we can attract some additional teachers for that. I know that most teachers don't want to do a 5-day-a-week after school job, but they might be really interested in doing that one day. So I don't have anybody so besides Miss Marks, and but I don't have anybody right now that's additional that we've brought in, but we will be doing that.
Yeah, my understanding of the situation was that there were some, in addition to other things, some team dynamics issues, and I would just encourage you to, reach out to folks who had like been part of the program for a really long time. And of course, I don't know what behind the scenes, might have been going on, but certainly from the perspective of the children in the program and the families who relied on it, it was such a high quality program for years. And we really felt the loss of that this past year. So I would definitely encourage you to try to, re-engage and, try to get folks back on the team.
Yeah, and my sense is that some of that sort of stuff that happened, which I actually don't know all the details of, but my sense is that people have kind of moved on from there.
Great.
Hopefully, that there's associations with past people that that I don't even know about. So, so yeah, hopefully we can move back in that direction.
Great. Thanks for your leadership. Thank you.
The other thing I would just mention is that the 5-year 21st Century Grant cycle is coming up this year. So this is the last year. So we'll be going through a reapplication process mid-year for the next cycle. And that includes funding for the summer program. So the only other thing I'll mention is that we've applied to this program called Springboard. It's sponsored by the state, and it's a K through 3 literacy program that kind of sets us up with a kind of roadmap, and there's a parent component to it. So we've applied to that. We haven't heard back yet, but we're hoping to kind of integrate that and hopefully also use it as a springboard to bring in some teaching staff to help with that. So, yeah.
What about morning, morning after school hour, maybe we can use that.
Yeah, I mean, as I was listening about the busing, this occurred to me, this is, for some families, this could be a kind of solution to that. It's definitely not off the table. Like, there's nothing in the funding saying we can't do that. I know that we did do a little morning tutoring up at Mount Holly. I think the main challenge with a lot of our programs is just finding people that can do that and it works for. With a lot of our programming challenges, that's like a key.
It's staffing.
Yeah.
The issue is that we would love to be providing for any parent who needs it, a quality before school or after school program at times that would meet everybody's needs. The majority of our staff are people who work within our school, and we run risk of burnout and then ultimate staffing loss if we are asking them to work from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m, 5 days a week.
I'm just thinking 7:30. So I get work at 8.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Kyle.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving along, policy first reads, we don't have any, excellent. And then the draft multiple year board calendar.
Yeah, we'll leave that for the,
Right.
for the board retreat.
Right, yeah,
This is something that was one of our goals for the year, so that we're not on a regular basis going, when is it that we do non-bargaining unit? When do we talk about this? So I've got a draft, it's in the folder.
Yeah.
In two different formats, one just a list, another like a calendar. It started for July and August, which is obviously already out of date, so we'll have to make adjustments to it. But you can see that in the folder, and we'll talk about it at the retreat.
all right, gonna go with that, more homework for you guys, lots of homework. All right, committee reports, TRSU board report, we pretty much already discussed everything that happened at the meeting, unless I missed anything. Policy committee report, we had a policy meeting on Monday, went pretty good, so you'll be seeing some more policies next month, so that was really good, and some that
We're getting caught up.
we're getting caught up, we consolidated a couple of them, so we're definitely streamlining and
There'll be fewer.
yeah, cruising right along. Yep, so, all right, and then the facilities committee, we've already heard enough of that. And then the policies approved this meeting was C3, D1, D2, D10, D12, D18, F3, and F4.
You say my gosh.
And then public comments, any public comments? Anyone out there? No? No, all right, excellent. Our next meeting date is gonna be September 13th, 2023 at the Mount Holly School Library in Zoom. And just let everybody know, I will be going to Pennsylvania that day, so I will not be available. So either we can have Kelly run it or we could change the date. It is, I figure I'd ask about it right now and let everybody know. So whatever someone like, if you want Kelly to run it.
That's fine.
Yeah,
So,
we'll be covered.
all right,
Yeah.
excellent, no problem. Cool,
He's indispensable, man.
right, right. All right, and then we'll have, let's see, we'll have some first reads on that policy. Let's see what else. I don't know what else. I think that's about it and all the normal stuff.
And hopefully I'll be able to send out a doodle poll to you with dates for the board retreat.
Yep,
The more notice, the better.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, right. Yep.
Usually takes us a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we might want to talk about what outreach we want to start.
Oh, yeah, outreach for bond.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, good idea.
I think the picture, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Judy's heading that,
Davis.
You guys can discuss that at the meeting.
Preparing videos that you can share with people and do through YouTube and lots of.
All that other fun stuff. All right, cool, beautiful. Our self-evaluation here, we're given and read the agenda, back over to us prior to the meeting. Yes, we have thumbs up, we respected each other, the public, the administration. Yes, we are all nice people. We handled the conflict openly and constructively. Yes, we did. Let's see, we focused on the roles and responsibility of the board. Absolutely. And then we acted as a team once the decision's been made and worked collaboratively throughout the decision making. And I think we did that good amount tonight. So excellent. That's 2 thumbs up. All right, motion to adjourn.
So many.
Katie makes the motion, Dave, 3 seconds. All in favor? Aye, raise your hand. Beautiful. All right, done at 8:30. So. I failed the challenge.